What makes a chase so special? What is it about these films and their motor chariots of the silver screen that stays with us many years after they have left the cinema? Even to this day, vehicle chases in films are a staple of a good action piece that is always a welcome treat, with many directors and stunt coordinators bringing their own ideas in with some one-of-a-kind concepts. It was, however, in the decades past, when many would argue car chases were at their peak, where with no computer assistance available, extraordinary stunt people and a number of dedicated actors got behind the wheel of these fueled machines and put life and limb on the line and gave us some incredible heart-stopping moments. MFP is going to try and settle once and for all what makes a great chase. Almost as old as film itself, one of the best aspects of a chase is that despite it at times being a major action piece, there is no limit as to what genre it can be based within. Several examples for this can be seen within the comedy genre, where the idea of breaking the law and taking on the system in the name of good old fun or money can be seen in the likes of ensemble films, such as the Gumball Rally or the Cannonball Run, or even as a means of compensation for one's family, as demonstrated in Short Time. What better way to portray this idea of pure fun and chaos on the road than 1972's What's Up Doc's infamous chase through San Francisco? A comedy starring Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal, an 11-minute chase was undertaken that was shot at a cost of 1/4 of the film's total budget, with around 32 stuntmen required to pull it off in 19 days. This would see havoc spread out around the city, as what first starts out as a chase to catch our heroes on a push bike down and up the famous hills of San Francisco, then led to a 1968 VW Beetle being stolen, as 3 other cars are giving chase to get their hands on bags of stolen jewelry and government documents. A pure screwball situation where no parked cars or handymen were safe. What's Up Doc would become recognised as the first film to give credit to stunt performers, and is regarded as a highlight for both the lead actors and director Peter Bogdanovich's career. Not to mention, seen as one of the great all-time comedy car chases, whose impact can still be seen in some of the landmarks of San Francisco that led to filming laws being forever changed by the city. Horror is also no stranger, as fear of who is chasing us can come into play even on the road, much like a crazed killer in a dark forest, as seen in films such as The Car of Christine, where no driver is required, as possession is a common thread among these films, as is the thought of an unstoppable vehicle hunting its victims. A film that personifies the fear of being stalked with no sign of escape is Steven Spielberg's made-for-TV feature film debut, Duel, where everyday-looking man Dennis Weaver plays the lead, as his character is literally named David Mann. A random encounter on an American highway leads Mann to come across what can almost be described as a driverless big rig in the form of a 1955-60 Peterbilt, as we the audience are never shown who is behind the wheel of the truck that has targeted our protagonist and is determined to run him down after doing all it can to toy with him to his ultimate breaking point. Spielberg was able to capture the helplessness and fear of a man who falls victim to the classical wrong place, wrong time situation, leading many developing a fear of strange trucks on the open road, much like he would do only a few years later with Jaws, in our fear of sharks in the ocean. Not often seen within the drama category though, as car chases within the genre are usually reserved for the world of motor racing films, often in the form of true story historical events or racing rivalries, such as 1966's Grand Prix, 1971's Le Mans with Steve McQueen, Rush, and Ford v Ferrari to name a few. One film in particular is presented as one long car chase in 1971's Vanishing Point, where an emotionally haunted ex-police officer and former race car driver simply named Kowalski now makes his living as a car transporter. High on narcotics, and with no real direction in his life, our lead jumps into the now iconic 1970 Alpine White 440 Magnum Dodge Challenger in a race to make it from Colorado to San Francisco in under 2 days. The chases seen are some of the best put to celluloid, thanks to the likes of stunt driving legends such as Kerry Lofton among others. Due to the high-speed chases required for the film, several crashes took place that were not according to the script, yet were left in the final product due to the tight budget that limited any reshoots, though this helped add to the film's dedication to realism. Though often considered as an action film, Vanishing Point plays as an almost philosophical drama and focuses more on the human aspect than the action of the chase, with the car becoming its own character within the film and its presence taking on an almost mythical form over the years since the movie's release. It is action that is usually the biggest supporter for car chases though, as it is almost a given, if a car of any value is seen within an action film, a chase will most likely ensue, as demonstrated in the John Wick franchise or 2011's Drive. When done right, it can be either a major plot point to the story, or the adrenaline kick the movie may need to push things along, and may even come out of nowhere without warning. One of the prime examples would have to be 1985's To Live and Die in LA, where after a failed shakedown takes place, our would-be protagonist, played by William Peterson, is playing a somewhat similar, be more reckless law enforcer than director William Friedkin's previous cop outing of The French Connection's Popeye Doyle. A chase that took 6 weeks to film, that was scheduled for the end of production so as to avoid any delays if any of the actors or crew were injured during the frenzied pursuit down the streets and viaducts of Los Angeles. The scene is shot fast-paced and frantically edited, with the tension and exhilaration set at a fever pitch as the situation soon erupts into a moving shootout across train tracks and down one-way streets. The sequence represents a perfect example of a film that continues to be remembered, mostly due to one scene alone, as the chase into Live and Die in LA is indeed worth remembering and a must for lovers of action. The devil is in the details when it comes to the motivation of the chase and those in it. It has been said by the likes of famed director Quentin Tarantino that there are two types of car chases, those who are being chased and those giving it. So it goes to beg the question of what drives these characters to get into their vehicles and let the machines take over and either become the hunter or the hunted. When it comes to those being pursued, more often than not, it is usually a situation of evading the law where carnage ensues, as we see our protagonist shown to be some kind of either master behind the wheel or outright lucky as hell and driving on nothing but pure instinct. Films that are some of the best examples for this is the new arrival favourite Baby Driver and our fresh-faced young protagonist driving a red 2006 Subaru Impreza WRX, showing off some amazing carnage on the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, or the New Zealand classic Goodbye Pork Pie, with the idea of just driving off in a stolen 1978 yellow Mini 1000 to patch things up with one's ex-lover one last time makes for an interesting concept.
I love you.
It would have to be the car chase fan favourite of Dirty Mary Crazy Larry that takes the top mention in this discussion, with the story focusing more on the antagonists of the plot as almost anti-heroes. There is little to root for, as we first see our duo of fleeing robbers, as well as along for the ride one night stand Mary, played by Suzanne George, escape capture and trying to make it across the border, with the character of getaway driver Larry, played by Peter Fonda behind the wheel of a 1966 Chevrolet Impala, and then in the ever car chase reliable 1969 Dodge Charger. Unconventionally shot in sequence, unlike most Hollywood features, Dirty Mary Crazy Larry went through many casts to produce the film, as most of the lead driving was performed by Peter Fonda in excess of 100 miles per hour, and any damage that occurred to one of the vehicles was replicated on the backups in order to maintain consistency. With our main protagonist of Captain Franklin, played by Vic Morrow, not even seen in the climax within another car himself giving chase, but in a helicopter, making the concept hard to distinguish who exactly is the audience cheering for come the film's end. This is something that usually plays quite differently when it comes to our hero who gives chase in a film. Not always is a protagonist seen chasing another vehicle without some major dramatic event taking place prior. But when it does occur, it can lead to a greater support from the audience to be invested in our hero's quest to catch our story's villain. It plays on the idea of urgency, where the need to stop the antagonist from getting away becomes top priority over everything else, as seen in films such as the first Mad Max, where our lead seeks revenge after the grievous murder of his family. Or as seen in the 1986 Stallone fan favourite Cobra, where our lead gives chase in his custom 1950 Mercury Coupe on a group of murderous cult members seeking to silence a witness. It is in the instance of 1971's The French Connection that is one that is greatly remembered in this case, which sees our rough around the edges New York cop Popeye Doyle give chase to a would-be assassin of his, escaping in an elevated train as our supposed hero steals a 1971 Pontiac Le Mans and begins to go on a reckless rampage, tearing down the city streets, giving little thought to the lives he is putting in danger as he chases the train down come hell or high water. Shot with no official permits, and done on the fly with little to no choreography, and with minor assistance from the police department who blocked off only several streets for the chase, The French Connection would be the precursor to director William Friedkin's later work, which saw real pedestrians almost run over by our hero, and some actual non-production cars smashed into, where some scenes, lead Gene Hackman would undertake the driving, yet was mostly done by stunt veteran Bill Hickman. The unpredictability and pure chaos made this chase one of the most memorable ever shot, as the director himself would film from within the Le Mans, due to not wanting any of his crew members who were married with children to undertake such a dangerous task, which he was willing to put his life on the line to get done. Though most films today with chase scenes more often now bring in unrealistic expectations when CGI is incorporated into the final product, as is the case with the modern day audience popular Fast and Furious franchise, among others. It was the practical, all done in camera chases and stunts that brought the screen to life in the past, though luckily there are a number of stunt coordinators and directors still opting for this type of thrilling experience even in this day and age. Amazing stunt performers of the past who were willing to put life and limb on the line, such as Kerry Lofton, Bill Hickman, Hal Needham, Buddy Joe Hooker and Grant Page to name just a few, gave us some of the most memorable action sequences ever put to film, thanks to their dedication in helping produce bigger and more dangerous stunts for our enjoyment. When it comes to stunts, one of the hardest hitting films that was to emerge in the late 1990s was the ensemble cast European-based film Ronin, which thanks to the dedication of director John Frankenheimer and his insistence to reality, did we the audience get not one, but several amazing car chases within the film. Featuring stock European cars of the time, such as the 1991 BMW 535i, a 1996 Audi S8, and a Peugeot 406, helping the driving within the streets in and around Paris a greater feeling of realism to the action that had audiences on the edge of their seats, not to mention the actors as well, were planted behind the wheel, while stunt drivers hidden from camera performed their magic, causing many an image of discomfort for the actors on screen. Not all chases need to be limited to four wheels to get us the audience excited for the outcome. When it comes to action and stunts with trucks, however, few directors come immediately to mind, such as Australian writer-director George Miller, who in recent years was brought back into the spotlight with the 2015 hit sequel Mad Max Fury Road. It was his first ever sequel in 1981, however, with Mad Max 2, where the director and his Australian crew got to really show off their talent. When we first revisit road warrior Mad Max Rockatansky, played by Mel Gibson, do we see just how nail-biting Miller's vision of pure mayhem could actually be. Described as one long car chase, the film picks up a few years after the original ended, where we are now within a post-war wasteland, where gasoline is the most important substance left in the world. After a series of chases take place throughout the film, it is the climax where a Mack R600 truck is commandeered by our anti-hero Max do we see the screen fully erupt with action. Done oftentimes at speed and for real, it was watching the amazing Australian stunt crew do their thing, jumping on and off several moving vehicles and crashing into one another, that made more than a few hearts skip a beat in the cinema. The final chase, surprisingly to most, resulted in only a few injuries, one of which included a broken leg among other damages, when stunt performer Guy Norris mistimed a barrel roll jump he was supposed to perform off his motorcycle as it collided with another vehicle, yet took the full impact of the crash and flew uncontrollably through the air, as shown in the finished product. Given their versatility in the terrain which they can be set within, due to their on-road, off-road lightweight appeal and the additional action that can be had on just two wheels, motorcycles can often make for an excellent addition to any chase when done right, and can make for greater danger, given how vulnerable the rider is to anyone giving pursuit. Unforgettable stunt work can also be seen in the film, where the race for freedom becomes a central plot of the based on true events war classic, The Great Escape. Hot off some of his earlier work, Steve McQueen was brought into this international collaboration to add some extra excitement. What better way to demonstrate this than through one of the most amazing motorbike chases ever put to film? Getting his hands on a 1961 Triumph TR6, doubling for a German military BMW of the time, the character of Captain Virgil Hiltz, played by McQueen, early in the film establishes his love for motorbikes, and thanks to the insistence of the actor himself, got to show off his talent. Escaping from a World War II PRW camp and surrounded by German troops, with no other options left, a jump heard around the world took place, where we see stuntman and friend of Steve's, Bud Eakins, take on the clearing of the first of two barriers dividing Germany and Switzerland, a jump McQueen himself had attempted but failed and was not allowed a second chance. Though failing to escape and crashing, this iconic image of McQueen's character jumping the barrier remains one of the greatest ever moments ever seen of any chase in film history. No less a character within the film at times, the vehicles our leads drive often play a pivotal role in the makeup of the story and our love for the chase. This is perhaps the list that has the most number of options, as many people have their own particular favourite, and that one car they dreamed of owning one day themselves, all due to seeing them on the silver screen. So what is it about these cars that grab our attention and can become a personal obsession for many, to the point of spending millions to purchase or replicate? They do not always have to be a one-of-a-kind vehicle, as a stock production car could just as easily capture our interest and stir our excitement. Where fantasy and imagination comes in, do these cars become more than just another production prop and turn into an almost living entity within the story when custom built for the film? This is shown in cars such as the 1981 DeLorean DMC-12 Time Machine from Back to the Future, or the 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT in Mad Max, transformed into the black-on-black blown pursuit special our hero uses to hunt down nomad bikies and wander out into the post-apocalyptic wasteland in. If one-of-a-kind rarity was to take first place, this would have to go to the custom-built, non-production based Dodge M4S, as seen in the 1986 sci-fi B-movie classic, The Wraith. Shown to us within the first minute of the film to be a manifestation of beams of energy, and later seen to be destroyed and reanimate itself. This experiment on four wheels with its at the time $20,000 paint job was borrowed by the production and duplicated to give us this rolling spirit on its hunt for those who killed its driver, who was brought back by some outer-world force who equipped him with his own turbo interceptor to seek revenge. Originally a pace car built by Dodge to try and create an American 4-cylinder 2-litre engine that was able to exceed 200 miles per hour on the racetrack, the M4S cost over $1 million to manufacture and reached a top speed of 194.5 miles per hour, making it indeed a one-of-a-kind for the 1980s, not to mention movie cars. In the case of stock production cars used in films, Hollywood has a tendency to somehow make them into that suddenly desirable piece of machinery, which is why more often than not, motor companies supply their sometimes straight off the factory assembly line models for free, in hopes of boosting sales, as more freedom is given to show them off on the big screen than would otherwise be seen elsewhere. It is in 1968's Bullitt that many to this day consider to be the ultimate car chase that the standard should be compared to. Do we get two brand new for the year muscle car classics in the form of the 1968 Ford Mustang GT Fastback and the 1968 Dodge Charger RT that car fans still covet. Both presented in original V8 form and basic single-tone dark color schemes, these cars became a pair where one is rarely thought of without the other, and many still debate which one was the better car of the film. Although in reality for the hills and streets of San Francisco, the bigger block Charger with its 375 horsepower 440 Magnum would have given greater distance between itself and the 320 horsepower 390 FE V8 Mustang. This is something easily overlooked by fans, as the thrill ride outweighs any technical differences that may have occurred, as this film, with now 55 years since the release, still remains the golden standard of car chases. Who is behind the wheel can oftentimes do a lot for the film, and does bring in the attention some of these classics on their own might not have had, but also becomes a place for these actors to shine, as their enthusiasm for the chase can bring a lot to the table. Not many actors are often known or remembered for their part in car chase movies like McQueen was, yet there was one man whose name in the 1970s and early 80s also became synonymous with going fast and looking cool, in the form of good old boy movie icon Burt Reynolds. Working close with good friend and personal stuntman Hal Needham, both men brought their energy to screen in the 1973 action classic White Lightning, and a few years later in its sequel, Gator. It was the number 2 at the box office behind the original Star Wars 1977 comedy hit, however, Smokey and the Bandit, that made Burt Reynolds a worldwide icon and car chase favourite. Bringing in his own charm and alpha male swagger as the character forever known as the Bandit, Burt had brought his star power to the film, and made being an outlaw look cooler than ever before, no less due to racing around in the iconic 1977 black with gold trim Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, whose appearance in the film led to Trans Am sales increasing by almost double the following year. Burt's image behind the wheel would continue in other films directed by Needham, such as Hooper, and the star-powered collaboration and car lovers' favourite, The Cannonball Run, which featured some of the most amazing machines ever put together for one film, and an opening that captured the essence of pure fun car chase movies could bring to the screen. Whatever the takeaway from these observations and collection of speed and mayhem presented here, at the end of the day, people have their own ideas as to what it is that makes a chase in a movie all the more captivating. These moments in cinema represent the biggest aspect of the overall desire of escapism, the idea of seeing things we the audience imagine how would we react or how would we want to, given the chance to give in and see what would happen if we put our own foot to the floor and tempted fate. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like, subscribe and bell icon, and feel free to check out our merchandise and follow us on Instagram via the links in the description below to help this channel grow in order to bring you more content such as this one, as your support is what keeps this channel going.